Did you feel that? It just got really cold in here.
Yeah. Did you notice that the candle flickered just now?
I heard this place is haunted. Do you think...
Well, they say the ghost of a former chef still roams the kitchen, making sure the meals are perfect.
Did you hear that? There's no one there.
Well, I guess dinner's about to get interesting, because today on the Castle of Spirits True Ghost Stories podcast, we're talking about haunted restaurants.
I do have to say, I think I may have missed my calling.
Oh, yeah?
I never took theater.
It shows.
Oh, does it?
Mm-hmm.
I could have been a drama geek. If only.
Instead, you just got the geek part.
Well, that's true. Actually, no. Geeks make money.
Oh.
And so do nerds.
Okay. So
what I am,
a dork.
I've always been a dork. Exactly. There's nothing good at the end of that statement.
But who are you?
I know the answer to that one.
Oh, I hope so.
Today, I'm a ghost keeper.
Named?
Vince. Who are you?
I'm the ghost keeper named Jane.
Oh, hi, Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how's it by you?
Whatever that means.
Still don't know.
No.
So what made you think that it would be a good idea to do an episode specific to haunted restaurants?
Well, I had put a story aside a few weeks ago that is a haunted restaurant story, and it got me curious how many other haunted restaurant stories there were in the Castle archive. So I did a little search for the word restaurant and came up with pages. So I thought, let's do it.
And this was at castleofspirits.com, right?
Obviously.
Go figure. There must be thousands of stories there. True ghost stories submitted by people just like you listening right now.
4,600 plus, in fact.
I actually had my own true haunted restaurant story.
Yes.
Published it to Castle of Spirits.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Squatter's Ghostly Pub Encounter, I think. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, we read it a little over a year ago.
And it recounts a story of quite an unusual experience that I had at a restaurant in Salt Lake City. But today it's all about the other people who have experienced such things.
That's right.
And it seems like a lot of people have had experiences in restaurants, ghostly experiences.
Yeah. And you think of a restaurant like it's a place where it's usually bustling. There's several people working there. There's, lots of patrons. It seems like it would be the last place where a ghost would just show up. But yeah, there's a lot of stories about haunted restaurants. So
and I know
it's
why.
Not true.
I know why.
Why?
It's because we, in this incarnation, are always told that once you die, you get to go to heaven and eat whatever you want, and you don't gain a single ounce.
Oh, boy. In fact, you lose several.
Right? So therefore, what better place to go as soon as you die than a restaurant, your favorite restaurant?
Hey, Vince, speaking of favorite restaurants, is there a particular haunted restaurant that you have on your bucket list?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a haunted restaurant or if it's just a restaurant in a haunted place, the Brookdale Lodge.
That was going to be my answer to the Brookdale Lodge. And it's a gorgeous restaurant. It actually has like a brook running through the restaurant, but I've heard lots of stories about it being haunted, as well as the bar in the hotel being haunted.
Yeah.
Someday we're going to go stay at the Brookdale Lodge.
If you guys have ever seen more than a dozen episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, you probably have seen Robert Stack talking about the Brookdale Lodge.
That's one of the creepiest episodes.
Anyway, speaking of haunted restaurants, before I begin to get hungry and want to place an order, do you have a story on your plate? See what I did there that you can read to us from the Castle of Spirits archive?
In fact, I do. It's the OG story that gave me the idea to do the theme today in the first place. So, my first story is called The Keg, and it was submitted by Frosty in British Columbia, Canada, August of 2004. In the early 80s, while I was in high school, I had a part-time job at a restaurant in the old part of town in Brampton, Ontario. My first night in the dish pit was a long one. Learning where everything goes and recovering from a heel wound made things slow going. I was pretty much the last person working, and the manager was still doing his cash out upstairs. Working away, I saw an older man in an old, worn brown jacket wander into the back kitchen area, right by the dish pit. He walked past and turned the corner. I just figured it was some guy there to pick up his son or daughter from work. The second time he came by, there's an exit at the other end of the long, narrow kitchen, so in essence you could do laps. I became suspicious that perhaps this was just a lost, drunken ghost. As he turned the corner, I put down what I was cleaning and stepped back the 2 steps to see down the kitchen to ask the guy if I could help him. Gone. This kitchen is a good 20 to 25 feet long to the other exit to the broiler bar in the dining room. Fast bugger, I thought. The third time I saw him walk by, I got a better look at him through the dish racks, and he seemed to be in a foul mood. Now I was suspicious and stepped back to talk to him just as he rounded the corner. Gone. There was no physical way that guy could have left my sight. I wasn't scared, just baffled. That was the only time I saw the old man, although many more people talked about seeing him and feeling creeped out or just plain frightened. Over the next few shifts there, I started getting to know the people and the place. The staff started chiding me with stories about George. Seems that was the pet name given to the ghost in the restaurant. Naturally, I thought they were having me on in that initiation ceremony kind of thing. They described him as being about 6 feet tall, black hair, mustache and sideburns, wearing an old-style 3-piece gray suit with a black derby. Well, over the 3 years that I worked there, I saw that guy no less than 35 times. Often he'd be seen standing in a corner by a table, watching people. There were 2 instances that I know of where guests commented to their waiters about the tall gentleman in the old gray suit and derby. Several times while cleaning out the salad bar at the end of the night, I'd hear someone walking by in the raised dining area. Looking over, I saw George walk by, but as he passed by the waist-high divider, he'd have no legs. Just the top half of him that faded to nothing. A few other times, it was a different version. I'd hear footsteps walking along, but see nothing. Then, as the footsteps walked clear of the waist-high divider, there'd only be his legs walking by. The legend behind the ghost, as repeated by staff, was that before the restaurant, there was a department store which was built on the burned foundations of a hotel that used to be on that site. The popular story was that 8 people had died in the fire that destroyed the place. Not content enough to accept the story at face value, I went to the library and started hunting through the local archives. I found a picture of the place burning in a book of local history taken from old newspapers. However, there was no mention about it. After a number of phone calls, I actually got hold of the original hotel owner, surprisingly still alive, and asked him about the fire. He reassured me that no one was killed or harmed in the fire. To this day, I kick myself for not asking about the other legends of the ghost's death. The story was that George died in a gun duel in the dining area referred to as the bedroom, and that the old man died of a heart attack in one of the rooms. So much stuff has happened there to so many people. Many staff quit on the spot after experiences. I once watched a dishwasher turn on by itself. You have to hold the switch over for a count of 3 before it engages in a cycle. While myself and another guy were telling the new girl in the dish pit about the ghost. I watched a clothes dryer turn on by itself with a coworker with me. After closing, there were 4 of us sitting at the staff tables, waiting for the manager to finish up. He always bought us drinks to make sure someone was with him while he closed. We heard a great amount of thumping about, like someone was kicking the chairs around, coming from the dining area on the other side of the room. Thinking that maybe we missed a drunk guest who was waking up, we investigated, but found nothing out of place. Returning to our card game, we were joking about George when, as we sat down, an ashtray at the corner of the table broke in 2 and half of it spun into the center of the table. We waited for the manager by the back door. Especially among the day staff, prep, clean office people would hear their names called out from empty areas all the time. So often, people would pop their head either from the kitchen to the dining area or from the dining area to the kitchen, asking who wanted them. No one would have called that person. The last time I talked to someone with contact with the restaurant, just over a year ago, I was told that people are still reporting activity there. Living in another province, I've not been there for a long time, but I'm always interested in what others have experienced. I've grown up with this kind of stuff all my life and have hours of stories, but because this place is still open and still active, I chose this one to share with the readers in case anyone happens to want to visit it. Thank you again to Frosty in British Columbia, Canada, for submitting The Keg in August of 2004. And Vince, I have to tell you that after I read this story, I did some fancy Googling. The Keg is still open to this day, and it is a swank-looking place.
Yeah?
It looks like a fancy restaurant. So I think that's hilarious. He keeps talking about, I thought maybe it was a drunk guest who was just waking up. But you look at maybe the restaurant was different back then, but you look at the pictures of it now and you're like, there would never be a drunk patron who was passed out in this place. It's just not the vibe.
Too nice a place.
It's a really nice looking place. Yeah.
It's so good that the alcohol does not get you blinding drunk, just a little buzzed.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tastefully buzzed.
And how interesting that the restaurant is located in Ontario. Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
Last podcast.
Episode. All right, Vince. So I'm going to text you the website for it so you can get an idea of what this place looks like. And we'll include a link to it in the show notes if you would like to check it out too. And if you live in that area and you work there, have worked there, just know stories from this restaurant, we would love to hear about it. If you've never been there, now's your chance. Go there, have an experience, let us know about it.
And what's really funny about that is that when you were reading the story and you mentioned that he thought it may have been just a drunk guest, I thought you said a drunk ghost.
Oh, no, the first time he did say something about
an intoxicated ghost.
Yeah.
And it got my mind thinking, oh my God, can you imagine if you are drunk when you die, you stay drunk.
Are you drunk
as a ghost
for eternity? That sounds
You're wondering,
awful.
Staggering around the narrow hallways of the afterlife, and you're going, how long is this stuff going to last? Good God. It was only happy hour.
Man, that really makes a case for not going to sleep drunk, doesn't it?
No kidding. And if you ever have to, make sure you sleep on your stomach. But yeah, that's a great story, eh?
Yeah.
I'm practicing.
Yeah,
so
you
that
are.
when we get to Canada, eh?
You're being very Canadian at this moment.
I'm trying.
So, Vince, I was wondering if you had a little tapas type story to share with the audience.
I got something a little tasty here.
Let's have it.
This is a story that was submitted anonymously, but from Alabama, USA in January of 2009. This story is called The Pirate's House, Savannah, Georgia.
Ooh.
Last summer, my husband and I visited Savannah, Georgia. After walking around for most of the afternoon, seeing the sights of the riverfront area, we decided to have dinner at the Pirate's House restaurant, having no idea of the history of the place. Shortly after we were seated, I asked the waitress for the location of the restrooms. My husband, who also needed to go, said he'd wait for me to come back. As I approached the ladies' room, I noticed that the men's room was farther down the same narrow hallway. So I decided I'd check out the location once I was done so I could tell my hubby exactly how to get there. When I came out of the ladies' room, I went down the hall, saw the turn to the men's room, and then turned around to head back to our table. Suddenly, I heard and felt someone rushing up behind me. There were 4 distinct footsteps. They sounded like someone walking heavily, perhaps in boots, that clunked against the wooden floor. I turned anxiously, only to see that the hallway was empty. No one was there. The ceiling above that hallway was slanted, and you could tell the roof lay above, so I know it wasn't a sound coming from a floor or walkway above me. Shaken, I returned to the table and started telling my husband what I had experienced. A waitress, seeing my expression, came over to ask what was wrong. When I told her, she said, "Ah, you've met our Captain Flynn. Many folks have had experiences similar to yours, always centered around the area of the ladies' room." I know for a fact that I felt someone rushing up behind me. I don't think I imagined it, because there was nothing to make me expect that sort of thing. In fact, it was the farthest thing from my mind. Needless to say, that experience was one of the highlights of our trip to Savannah. And that was anonymous in Alabama, USA, way back in January of 2009 with the Pirate's House in Savannah, Georgia. Now, I already talked about it, but can you guess why I read that story?
Yep. I was thinking that sounds a lot like your story.
My experience, I just mentioned it a few minutes ago on this very podcast. Squatter's Pub Ghostly Encounter in Salt Lake City is a place that you wouldn't think was haunted. And I don't even know if it is or not. I didn't talk to anybody there. But I had an experience very similar to that when I went downstairs into what I remember to be a really creepy hallway.
Yeah.
And I went to the bathroom, saw some weird things, heard some weird things. And when I was leaving, I felt like someone was right behind me, screaming into my ear, trying to chase me up the stairs. Interestingly enough, Jane and I went back to that restaurant within the last year.
Yeah, last summer, I think.
We had lunch there with our good friend Ed, who plays drums for the Doobie Brothers.
That's right.
That's
We're name dropping.
That's right. And I went downstairs. I said, "Man, I got to go check this out," because I wanted to see if it happened again.
I should have gone down. I still haven't been down there.
Well, the way I described it, the way that I remembered it in my memory, and the way I described it in the story on the Castle of Spirits website, it was totally different this time. And I'm wondering if even then, if maybe that is even clearer evidence to me that I was experiencing some sort of a
time slip.
Maybe, because I don't remember. I remember a long hallway. And when you get down to those stairs, the bottom of the stairs to go to the bathroom area now, it's very brightly lit. It's not a long hallway. It's sort of a short hallway, even though you know the building continues on that direction. So I don't know. If anybody's ever had an experience in Squatter's Pub in Salt Lake City, let us know.
Or in
the Pirate's House in Savannah, Georgia. Also, tell us what's on the menu. Let us know if there's something good to order there.
Oh, I imagine there is.
Well, that was pretty yummy. Now, I ask you.
That was great.
Are you ready to deliver the second course of this mighty fine tasty meal called the Castle of Spirits True Ghost Stories podcast?
I am.
What you got serving up?
Mr. Keyword Stuffer.
Does it work if you keyword stuff audio?
No, I don't think so. No. All right. This story is called Haunted Mansion and Restaurant, Indiana, USA. Submitted by Lisa in Indiana, USA. January of 2003. In South Bend, Indiana, there's the Studebaker Mansion. The Studebaker legacy was that they built first wagons and then cars through the 1960s and is now called Tippecanoe Place Restaurant. The mansion, 4 enormous floors of stone and brick, has been many things since it was inhabited by the Studebaker families through the 1930s, where they entertained then-President Benjamin Harrison, as well as many other high members of Indiana society. It's been many things since, from a Red Cross hospital to what is now the famous Tippecanoe Place restaurant. It's a beautifully decorated, one-of-a-kind place with great food and fabulous atmosphere. This place has a reputation of being haunted. My husband and I really enjoy dining there, but whenever we're there, the hair on the back of my neck stands up the minute we go to the second floor and up. Mainly the 3 adjoining rooms that, of course, are now dining rooms, but back then were a nursery, maid's quarters, and one of the many master bedrooms. This mansion has 40 rooms. On New Year's Eve, we dined with friends and were walking about the mansion, touring, when we began chatting with an employee who's been there since it's been a restaurant 20 years. He said most people who say it's haunted all feel something in the nursery and other 2 rooms where I felt the presence of something. Not evil or scary in the least, just protective. He said that there was a fire back when the Studebakers lived there, and that portion of the house was destroyed and had to be rebuilt, but that no one had died in the fire, although a maid was severely burned. Strange. Also, on the next floor up, directly over the nursery, is another suite of then bedrooms, now dining rooms. As we were standing in the middle of this room, pictures on the wall began to move, as if wind was blowing them. We exited the room, and as I turned to look at them again, they stopped moving. We waited a minute, peeking in the room without actually entering it, and the pics were not moving. But upon us going to the middle of the room, they began swaying again. And yes, upon leaving, we turned and they had stopped. Anyway, a bartender told us a story that his roommate, also a bartender, had an experience as well. Several patrons sitting at the bar on the second floor just outside of the nursery were asking him about all of the rumors and folklore about hauntings, to which he replied, "I don't believe in any of that stuff," to which an expensive bottle of liquor promptly flew off the shelf and crashed on the floor behind the bar a few feet from him. Needless to say, he's now a believer. Another story from the employee was that they used to get calls continually from the police department that the restaurant's sound-activated alarm system kept going off, and upon reviewing the sound on tape, sounded like things, mainly dishes, being thrown around in the basement portion of the house. The restaurant eventually changed the type of security system because anything sound-activated would continually be set off by some unseen force. If you're ever in South Bend, Indiana, check out this place. It's absolutely gorgeous inside. The food is very decadent, and who knows, maybe a server from the past will ensure that your dining experience is a great one. Thank you again to Lisa in Indiana, USA, for submitting Haunted Mansion and Restaurant, Indiana, USA, in January of 2003. And Vince?
Yes.
Again, I have to tell you that I just Googled this place, and it is still active, and it's beautiful.
Okay, so, and I gathered that from the story that was told. And that just goes, I was kidding when I said, when you die, you get to eat all you want, so you're going to go to your favorite restaurant. How many stories have we heard? I didn't find any stories at all in my search today of like dumpy haunted restaurants.
Yeah.
Or like fast food joints that are haunted by the spirit of a customer who used to eat there a lot.
Although I think there's something insanely cozy and cool about like a haunted McDonald's. Just for example, it's something about this tiny, it's just relatively a tiny place, that people are working in close quarters. Even the customers, it's a pretty tightly packed place. And to think of that as being haunted, I like that. I want to hear about if anybody has ever worked in a haunted fast food restaurant. Send us your stories.
Haunted Greasy Spoon.
Yeah.
Diner.
I just sent you the website for this Tippecanoe restaurant. Check it out. That building is incredibly gorgeous.
But what's on the menu? That's what I want to know.
Well, I sent you the website, so perhaps you could look.
Can I place an order?
I think the food will be cold by the time you get it. Again, we'll include this link in the show notes so that you can see them. I'm glad that I picked two old stories, yet both of the restaurants are still there.
And again, like I said, they're both wonderful places. Why not haunt a really cool restaurant?
Yeah, if you're going to do it, might as well pick a really awesome one. But this Tippecanoe Place, the mansion, it looks like a haunted mansion. Like, obviously, it's going to be haunted.
Clearly.
So, Vince.
Yes, Jane.
I know that we have had quite the meal here. Lots of really good haunted restaurant stories. But I think I have room for dessert.
Good. Because guess what?
You're serving it up.
I got some good pieces of dessert here. This is a story that was submitted to the website in November of 2006 by Kimberly in Arizona, USA. This is called And a Ghost Will Follow You Home. In 2004, 3 friends and I headed from Tucson to Tombstone for the day, as 2 of my friends were from the RAF in England and had never been there. It was my first trip also. After hitting a show, taking a picture where you dress up in clothes from that era, we headed for a bite to eat. We ate at the Longhorn restaurant. The 4 of us grubbed, and after drinking lots of iced tea, the only other female and I hit the bathrooms. The bathrooms were like regular bathrooms, 2 of them, each with their own separate room, including a door, sink, and a toilet in one room. I took the one on my left. There was a weird sign on the wall in the bathroom. It struck me as odd. It read something along the lines of, "If you don't wash your hands, you can die." It then proceeded to explain how a girl died of some disease. Of course, I washed my hands, but when I did this, I had an overwhelming feeling like someone was watching me. I felt very claustrophobic, which is abnormal for me since I only get that feeling in large crowds. I shook off the feeling since the bathroom was small and cramped, and met back with my friends, and we drove back to Tucson. The next day, after returning home from work alone, I found my kitchen cabinets open, as well as my dishwasher. It was strange, since my roommate at the time was staying with somebody else, and nobody was there besides my dogs. All night long, my dogs kept barking. Their stares always in the direction of the kitchen, but they wouldn't step foot in there, which was very weird as this had never happened before, and the kitchen is where I kept their food and water. This happened over the course of the week. The dogs would bark in the general vicinity of the kitchen, and when I left the house, I'd return to find cabinets open and the dishwasher pulled down. Eventually, the 2 guys in the RAF talked to some of their friends who were also stationed here in Tucson and who'd also gone down to Tombstone the day after we had. They ate at the same place we did and struck up a conversation with their waitress about the restaurant, wanting to know more about the history and the legendary ghosts. The waitress told them how Morgan Earp had been shot on the roof of the building and that the women's bathroom was haunted, but not both of them, just the one on the left. I never got a full story on who the ghost was or anything about the ghost, but I'm fairly certain that the ghost followed me home and vacationed with me for a while and tried to make its presence known in my kitchen. A few weeks after my trip to Tombstone, I moved out of my apartment, so I'm not really sure what happened to the ghost. Maybe it went back home. And that's from Kimberly in Arizona, back in November 2006 with "And a Ghost Will Follow You Home." Thanks, Kimberly, for the warning. Longhorn Restaurant in Tombstone. I've always been interested to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really fancied myself an Old West fan, but every time I read stories like that, or every time I see a cool movie like Tombstone with Kurt Russell, it just piques my interest. And I think that if there's anything to reincarnation, and if there's anything to people being reincarnated into the same planet as before, I mean, you think, right? So many planets in the universe, you'd be reincarnated somewhere else, right?
Right.
But if there's any truth to it, I must have lived in the Old West. And if there's any truth, that there's any throughput into the kind of person I am today to the kind of person I was back then, I was probably a really bad cowboy.
I think you were a sheriff.
Like, I don't mean like a bad guy. I mean like a really bad, like I couldn't even ride a horse.
A subpar cowboy.
Right. I'd shoot myself in the foot, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I was just somebody who wanted to be a cowboy. I want to be a cowboy and you can be my cowgirl.
Don't threaten me.
With a good time?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh.
So I wonder if maybe it was the ghost of a former employee who worked in the kitchen doing the dishes and stuff. And he follows her home and he's like, "Bruh, your kitchen is broke." So she leaves and he's like trying to clean up and do dishes, but his ghost hands, you know, they're inadequate for the job. So he ends up leaving things hanging open. But he still tries. That's a helpful ghost. He may not be good at his job because, you know, opposable thumbs only work when they have, you know, physical mass to them. But he tried, and that's what counts.
They're good ghost.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is funny that I gravitated to that story, and it had to do with a haunted bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, it figures. My experience, everything has to do with a bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
I want to move on out.
How about we go have lunch at Squatters again in October, closer to Halloween.
Oh.
We'll go have a little lunch date, and we'll both go check out the bathroom separately, not together, because that's weird.
I do want to go, but this time I want to ask, like, the waitress or the waiter, the server.
Mm-hmm. Come up with another name for it. The concierge.
Garçon. Garçon means boy.
Garçon means boy.
Ask them, "Hey, man, is this place haunted? Is that downstairs area, is it teeming with spirits? Because there's something going on here. And what it is not exactly clear."
Please don't.
But what I can tell you is that there are spooky things afoot in the places where we eat. And I don't think that feet and food go hand in hand. So something's got to be done about this.
That's why they say no shoes, no shirt, no service. Let's not bring feet into it.
And the new saying is no shoot, no shoes, no shirt, no service, no afterlife for you. You're staying in the bathroom of the restaurant.
Oh boy, that really escalated.
Oh wow, and it sounds like the ghosts have had enough of our bantering.
Yeah, all this talk of restaurants has got them really ravenous, and that's a bad day all the way around. They want to go to that place with the ball pit. They want to go out to eat today. I don't know if you guys have ever seen ghosts playing in a ball pit.
Is that a thing?
It's kind of fun, actually. Just balls scattering and flying up in the air and children screaming. And
Interesting.
It's a really good time.
Well, we must check this out for sure, but we have to take care of our duty to the spirits of the castle. Mm-hmm. We want to thank everybody for listening today. Mm-hmm. Encourage you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to the show, where you can leave a review. Please do it because it helps us grow and reach other people.
You know, if you like this podcast, tell a friend.
And if you hate it, tell 2 enemies.
That's right. And a final word of advice, tip your servers.
Handsomely.